Welcome to Actors Turned Directors, part 6 of my Leonard Nimoy interview for the book sponsored by the Directors of America, Actors Turned Directors, available as a Kindle ebook on Amazon. The book gave me an opportunity to interview 10 A-list directors who started out as actors, and the purpose was to educate myself through their experience so that I can elicit the best performance from an actor as a director myself. I'm going to pick up where I left off on the part 5 of the Leonard Nimoy interview with the following question. Do you like lengthy pre-production rehearsals? What do you try to accomplish with them? Leonard, it depends on the nature of the show. In cases where I'm very clear and everybody has got momentum, I think rehearsals can be draining. I tend to want to get on with it, get started and shoot it before I overthink it, overwork it, over rehearse it, and over discuss it. Question. On The Good Mother, which is so intense, did you do a lot of rehearsals? Leonard, lots of conversations, very little rehearsal. Question. Does any experience in working with your actors while filming that movie stand out in your memory? Leonard, we had one terrible, terrible experience with Diane. It was an accident, a mechanical accident. It was in this very crucial scene where the court appointed psychiatrist is asking her questions about what happened with her marriage and why she thinks her husband is trying to take custody of her daughter and so forth. The psychiatrist is very neutral, very Freudian, and she has several pages of monologue where she talks about her life and the love affair that she's having, how she had suddenly come to life and how she felt it was good for her child to be in that kind of atmosphere. She goes to tears telling this story. I asked the cinematographer, David Watkin, I want to do this scene with two cameras on her. He was aghast and said, What on earth for? I said, because she's going to become extremely vulnerable and emotionally involved. And when she does it, I want to know we have captured it with two side, close up, and with a looser angle. So we set up two cameras. When we started to make the film, David Watkin had come to me with a wonderful idea. He said he would like to shoot two different kinds of film on this movie. Agva film on the scenes in general and Kodak for the courtroom scenes because Kodak would give us a grittier quality, more contrasted, sharper edge. I said, fine, let's do that. So we set out to film the scene with the psychiatrist, which was obviously to be shot with Agva since it was not a courtroom scene. We set up, put the cameras in place, and Diane sat down and talked her way through the role. I thought this was going to be wonderful. Take one was pretty good. Take two was very good. With take three, I'm standing behind the camera in tears when she talked about this crucial experience in her life. We finished the scene, and I said, wonderful, wonderful, beautiful. Thank you very much. All we have to do is turn the camera around on the guy who's asking the questions. Diane, you will be off camera. Take 45-minute break. She goes to her trailer, and I walk out on the street, It's now about 11:30 in the morning, and I know we've got about an hour of work left to do. We'll be able to pick up something else or take the afternoon off. I'm exhilarated. I'm thinking that the scene will get her an Academy Award nomination. As I'm on the sidewalk, walking on the most beautiful spring day in Toronto, I suddenly see two terrified figures running toward me. It's the camera operator and first assistant director running towards me with drained faces. They get to me and say, "We have a terrible problem. There was a mistake in the loading of the film in the two cameras. There was an inexperienced loader who put the Agva film in one and Kodak in the other. You cannot use the two together in a scene, cut to cut. There is such a difference in the quality that they wouldn't match. You have to reshoot with either one of the two cameras." After what she had just done, I was aghast and said, "Well, load it up, get ready, and let's reshoot. I'll go talk to Diane. I'll have to give her some time." As an actor, I know that when you are facing that kind of a scene and you do it and it's done, it starts to drain out. It's like you pull the plug on the bathtub and the water is running out. You say, "I don't have to hold that in me anymore. I've been preparing for that for days or weeks, and I can let it go now because it's done, it's on film." So before I went to her trailer, I said to them, "Get me a couple of $100 worth of flowers right away." Then I went and knocked on her trailer door and said, "I'm sorry, I have bad news." And she asked, "What's the problem?" I told her, and she said, "Well, these are the kind of things that happen when you make movies." I was so grateful for her professionalism. She could have screamed, cried, got angry. The flowers were unnecessary, but they were delivered to make me feel better. I said, "Take your time, and when you are ready, send me word that you are ready to start shooting again." About half an hour later, she walked in, sat down, and went 6 takes. On six, she hit it again, and it was a beautiful thing to watch. A professional actor do this terribly difficult, very moving scene, which had to grow and unfold like a blossom. Question: did you do much rehearsing on Three Men and a Baby? Leonard: we did a lot of discussions at the table and a lot of line polishing to make sure that the characters were honed right. The entire script needed a major rewrite. Originally, it had been a French movie, and we wanted to take a totally different approach to the language and the nature of the characters. The actors were heavily involved. We were all there at the table, the actors, the writers, the producer, discussing what every scene, every line was. It was very much like doing a play. The writers were writing at night and coming in the morning with new pages, and they were extremely professional and generous about it. They did great work. Question: did you cast a double for the baby? Leonard: we had a set of twins. The casting of the babies was fairly easy for me because there had been a lot of work done before I arrived. There were a lot of videotapes shot all around the country, and when I arrived in Toronto, they showed me tapes of maybe 20 sets of twins. From those, I chose 4 sets of twins that I felt I should see personally. They all came to the studio in Toronto, the parents with their babies, and we finally agreed on the pair we felt were ideal for the job Lo and behold, a miracle. Those twins lived in Toronto. They were a wonderful pair of kids, not only with great on camera persona, but they were at precisely the right time in their lives, not a minute too soon, not a minute too late. By the time we were finished, they were changing their personalities. The babies were 6 months old when we started shooting and 8 months old when we finished. So you can say that 25% of their lives took place during the shooting of this movie. They were getting to be a little bit more concerned about why they were brought in there again. What is that thing? The microphone. Why is it over my head all the time? Where is it going? Why do they keep taking me from here to there, back there, and then from here to there again and back? Why do they have keep washing me over and over again? Who are these guys changing my diapers? They were not quite so willing to take things in stride after 8 months. I thought to myself on the last day, if we let it go another week, we would have been in big trouble. Question. Did working with the babies affect the schedule in any way? Leonard, no. It was a process of working with the parents, the mother particularly, who was there all the time and who was extremely accurate about what we could anticipate with the babies. The first AD worked brilliantly with her. A typical conversation would be, tomorrow we need the baby hungry, so when she's offered the bottle, she'll take it. There were no hitches there. Question. As a director, how do you guide the actors in making the right choices? Or do you leave it pretty much up to the actors themselves? Leonard, as a general rule, if we start to rehearse a scene and I sense that the actor's going in the right direction and we have the same concept of what the scene is about, that settles it. It might be just a matter of some fine tuning here and there. It might be a technical requirement. I need the actor to turn at this point so that I can see a certain object or solve a camera problem. But if the actor is on track with the character and what the scene is about, then my input becomes very minimal. I may just say great or a little less or a little more. Don't be afraid to be a little more. Question. How can you tell when an actor is faking it and what to do about it? Leonard, it's a question of trained instinct. I taught acting classes for 5 years. I have a pretty good sense of when an actor is really delivering experience and when an actor is indicating an experience. That's a judgment call, an instinct. Either I believe it or I don't. If I don't believe it, then I've got to try some way to help this actor get through a reality. I make a suggestion about this or that, and then it becomes a question of whether the actor is capable of getting in touch with something more real within themselves. Question. In the emotional kitchen scene in The Good Mother, Diane Keaton threw things, broke plates. How did you guide her performance there? Leonard. The script indicated that she goes in the kitchen and starts to get violent. The difficult thing for Diane and for Liam was that the scene had to move to three different physical areas, and there had to be an emotional line as though the whole scene were played in one fluid move. But it wasn't possible to do that. The scene starts with them sitting at the far end of the living room, and then they get up and move to opposite sides of a table where they argue back and forth, and then into the kitchen where the final eruption takes place. When they came from their first position to the argument across the table. I had opposing cameras which presented a lighting challenge. The DP, David Watkin, accommodated us by lighting the sets in such a way that the actors had the freedom to continue this conversation, which builds into an argument across the table in one continuous piece. Then we cut, and there was a move into the kitchen, which required a relighting job. Both Diane and Liam are professionals, and they were able to pick up the scene at that emotional level and go into the kitchen and finish the job. Once we were in the kitchen, I laid out things that Diane could throw, a rack and dishes, and I said, "This is the area you can use. Feel free to move from here to there. Liam, you are here, and then end up on the floor." When it was over and she slumped to the floor, I thought we had a real vision of a deeply felt experience. They were capable of doing it. They were able to rise to the occasion time and time again and do it right. They had to do it again a few days later because we had a streaking. One of the camera magazines had a loose rivet and some light had leaked in and streaked the film on one side of this two-sided argument. So all the pains we had taken to be able to shoot the two sides of the argument simultaneously went for naught because we couldn't use one side of it. I think I was able to be helpful to them by not breaking it up into three parts, but breaking it up into only two. Question. In Funny About Love, I noticed a lot of long scenes that seemed to require a lot of choreography. Leonard. Yes, scenes like that pretty much have to be thought out in advance in case you need a certain piece of equipment to get the job done, and that piece of equipment isn't something that you are carrying on the job at all times. I used the crane on one piece where there is a conversation between Jean and Christine in the doorway of the apartment, and then they eventually move into the apartment and up a flight of steps to the bedroom. That was all done in one piece. Shots like that have to be designed in advance. I thought the shot when Mary Stuart Masterson tells Jill Wilder goodbye was beautifully choreographed. Is this something that you let your actors create and then set your shot? Or is it something that you pre plan beforehand? In the scene where Jean comes in and finds her packing, and they move to a couch where she sits down crying and says, "Why didn't you tell me that you loved me?" The most important thing for me was the choreography. It seemed to me that the scene needed something special to get from point A to point B, and it needed something more than just two people sitting and talking to each other. I said to the actors, "I'd like to start it here and move there, sit on the couch and end up in this position, and the camera will follow accordingly." The most important thing about that scene was there's a moment where she becomes the parent in the relationship. She sits Gene Wilder down and teaches him something, tries to focus his thinking. One of Gene's problems in the story was that under ordinary circumstances, if he possibly could, he would avoid this kind of confrontation. So she literally sits him down, starts the conversation with him, and then ends up sitting on his lap, which I thought was kind of touching. So, to answer your question, I have a shot in mind, but I give the actors the freedom to be creative, keeping in mind that if I cannot successfully execute the shot I have in mind, I can easily come up with an alternative. Question. When do you make these decisions? During your rehearsals on the set or before you even start? Leonard. Leonard, when I do the staging before rehearsals, before the actors even arrive, I walk through the shots with the cinematographer, or maybe the set dressers, or the scene designer, and I say, I'd like to do this. There's another element that we should mention here, making use of the set, which I've discussed with you before. In the case of Three Men and a Baby, we built an elaborate apartment set, so part of the design of the shots had to do with using the set successfully. How do we get them from the bedroom to the kitchen? Can we do the shot from the kitchen all the way up to the upstairs work area? We reveal and use these spaces in a way that helps the emotional line of the story. Some directors let the actors rehearse first, let them move around, give them all the freedom they want, and then do their shot list. But I'm more precise than that. I am more pre planned than that. This brings to an end part six of my Leonard Nimoy interview read from my book, Actors Turn Directors on Eliciting the Best Performance, available as a Kindle ebook on Amazon. If you found this information valuable, please like, share, and subscribe. And I look forward to engaging with you once more on part seven, the last and final part of my Leonard Nimoy interview. Thank you very much for tuning in.